Hello everybody, welcome to OCHD and welcome to another Jumputi Heroes video. Today we're going to be talking about 10 characters I could see being added to the game as either Musou or Densetsu. Now, as for what the distinction is between Musou and Densetsu, for me, there isn't really one at this point, and there may be in the future, and arbitrarily as I've gone through the video I have assigned a rarity to each character for what I felt that they would be, but yeah, there's no real distinction. The important thing that you need to know as somebody coming into this video is that Musou and Densetsu are together considered to be the highest rarities in the game, which means they're going to be in theory the most powerful characters, but certainly the most expensive characters. So let's get this video started with one that I think is going to be quite popular. It's definitely one of my favorites, and that is GIORNO from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind. When GIORNO was added originally, I think the expectation was that standard GIORNO would be a hero grade unit, and then we would later get a limited gold experience REQUIEM GIORNO. But they added GIORNO as a limited straight away. Don't really know what the choice being made was there. I guess they just they needed a limited for the event, and I mean, they just made the choice on the spot. But now that Musou exists and Densetsu exists, I think they've left themselves a gap where they can say, actually, instead of having this gold experience REQUIEM GIORNO just be another limited, they can be Musou or they can be Densetsu. They can be the top tier of unit in the game, super strong. And yeah, I think I would have to summon for this. I think I would have to. I'm a big fan of GIORNO. It would be the first JoJo unit of this rarity, so 100% on board with that. And, you know, looking back, you know, we used to play Stardust Shooters, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Shooters, the gacha game on this channel. And those videos always went down quite well. I always enjoyed making those videos. Some of them I put quite a lot of effort into, and some of them, it was very clear I didn't know what I was talking about. But I used to love that game. It's unfortunate that it got cancelled, it got shut down. But yeah, if we get a JoJo Musou and it ends up being GIORNO, 100% I'm gonna go for that, 100%. And the only other thing I could think of for like a JoJo Musou is if they did like I don't know where I've seen this before, but like a Jonathan that has like the generations of the Joestar family, which is something I guess you can kind of see it in the opening for the first season of JoJo, and it's kind of like you can see all the scenes from like later chapters and later parts of the manga flipping past before Jonathan shows up on the screen. So you could do something like that, I guess, but I think GIORNO Gold Experience Requiem, that is probably the most obvious pick if we were to get one from JoJo, and I hope we do. I hope we do. Next up, maybe a slightly less obvious pick, it's NANJIRO ECHIZEN from the Prince of Tennis. Sports series don't really get that much attention in this game, but that has been changing recently. Maybe not quite as much as we would have liked, but that has been changing, and I think that is in part due to the introduction of our new assistant producer, who has said that certain series were made a focus based on her input, stuff like Kuroko no Basket and the Prince of Tennis, and so it's not impossible that we could get NANJIRO ECHIZEN. For those unfamiliar, NANJIRO ECHIZEN is Ryoma's father, and throughout the story we are reminded many times that he was this legendary tennis player. He's a big part of the reason of why Ryoma is as good as he is, because he's the one that taught him how to play. And I mean, he fits the mold for a Musou or some sort of top tier character, and the only problem is that would people summon for him? I don't know for sure, obviously, but I think he falls into a similar category as Giotto, where the series is quite popular, but I think you would have to make the character quite powerful, and I think whichever event he was released within would have to be filled with characters from super popular series, sort of as a contingency plan. You know, I think when Giotto was released, they were like, yes, we have to have a One Piece Limited as well because we need to make sure that we get our money. And so I think they would probably do something similar here, but I could definitely see it happening. And I think in terms of the Prince of Tennis, there's no one more obvious as a candidate for this rarity of unit if we were to get one. Next up is AVAN from Dragon Quest. Now, this one is sort of cheating because it's actually AVAN from the spin-off manga, which is a Shonen Jump Plus exclusive. It is not in Weekly Shonen Jump. However, I'm just a really big fan of the artwork from this, and it sort of falls into the same category as Goldman. Not exactly the same, but a similar one. You see, Goldman from Kinnikuman, yes, that character does exist in the original manga, as does the flashback version of AVAN that exists in the original manga. But the version of Goldman we got in the game is actually from the spin-off. Not the spin-off, the continuation, I should say, which happened like 30 years after the end of the original series. And that version is not even from Weekly Shonen Jump at all. It was published in Weekly Playboy, which is a Shueisha magazine, but it's not Weekly Shonen Jump, is it? So they've even used pages from the other magazine, and I really don't see why they couldn't do the same here. At least use material from this version of the manga, even if the actual image they use in game is from the original run rather than the spin-off manga. But yes, this is it's very cool. I'm pretty happy to say that I think, you know, AVAN being a super powerful character in the original manga, then having his spin-off manga that shows us how he became that super powerful warrior and how he became regarded as such a strong character in the original series. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Obviously, they've been a bit patchy with their use of stuff outside of Weekly Shonen Jump, whether it is okay or it isn't okay. So this is going to be a bit more of a we'll see what happens type situation, especially due to the fact that these devs they must have no one working on the dev team that's read Dragon Quest. Because even though we had like new games being made, and we've had a spin-off manga being made, and we've had a whole new anime run, we haven't had a single Dragon Quest character since all this stuff has been happening. So I won't get my hopes up too high, but if it did happen, I would be quite excited. I would be quite excited. This one is slightly less exciting. It's Baryon Mode Naruto from Boruto. Unfortunately, this is theoretically the strongest version of Naruto in the Naruto story, and I know a lot of people probably aren't happy to go along with that because there are plenty of people that are not a big fan of Boruto, or at least not a fan of the way certain parts of the story have been executed. And I think when this released, that was one of those parts that people weren't a big fan of. Now, there's plenty of Boruto content still to work with without touching this. There's plenty of Naruto content to work with without touching this. But if you were going to choose a Musou / Densetsu version of a Naruto character from Boruto, this kind of has to be it, right? I mean, we've already got a Musou from Naruto, so now we're moving on to Boruto. It just makes sense. Super powerful, relevant to the current series, and it's sort of like the last use of this power, the only use of this power that we see, which kind of falls into the same category as like All Might. It was like the bright spark right before the end, can't use those powers anymore. Similar sort of thing. So I know a lot of people wouldn't be excited for it, but I think there are still plenty more that would be excited, and ultimately they can just make this a super powerful character, and it's just a way to promote Naruto as a powerful character, so I think it's fine. Moving on to one that maybe is a bit more exciting, and personally I think this is my favourite pick, one I absolutely would summon for, and that is ATEM from Yu-Gi-Oh! I've talked about this so many times before, and I stand by it. I think the king of games, ATEM, his ultimate attack can be like the the 3 gold cards and they fuse together in the way they did in like the last few chapters of the manga, 100% absolute banger. There's no way I couldn't summon on this. There's no way I couldn't not summon on this. I think I worded that right. I don't know. The point is, I would be thoroughly disappointed if this was released as anything below Musou / Densetsu. It needs to be a top tier of character. It needs to be super powerful. And considering the popularity and like the sort of worldwide relevance of Yu-Gi-Oh, it's got disappointingly few characters. So the least they can do is make one of the characters they do have be one of the most powerful in the game. And I highly look forward to when they finally do release this version of Naruto? This version of Yugi, this version of Atem, I should say. Next up, we have Lumiere from Black Clover. Not a lot to say here because I have talked about this in the past, and quite frankly, I think Black Clover has a lot of, similarly to One Piece, lots of powerful characters that would be interesting to be added to the game. Characters that are popular, and I would say you can easily pump out a bunch of feature festivals full of these characters. And I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. But I think Lumiere is the obvious choice for Musou or Densetsu. But it doesn't excite me that much. So I think it's very... To be honest, it's surprising it hasn't happened already. I'm surprised we haven't had Lumiere yet, but I think we have to know that it's on the cards at some point. So it's there. I don't really have much more to say about it. It's not the Black Clover content I would be looking forward to if we are going to get more this year. There's lots more stuff I would like to see before this, but yeah, I think it's inevitable, unfortunately. Following that, we have Aiolos from Saint Seiya. Now, I think there could be an argument that Aiolos probably just works as like a limited, probably doesn't need to be Musou or Densetsu, but I think you would say that as the devs have in the past decided to release Saint Seiya content first on the Taiwan server, normally to fill a gap on the Taiwan server because they can't have JoJo, instead opting to do like a Saint Seiya feature festival or something like that. But yeah, if we did get, say, for example, GIORNO as a Musou, then it makes sense to plug that gap on the Taiwan server with someone like Aiolos. Now, yes, they also got Fuki for their anniversary, so it's also possible that they could get another Musou on top of whatever they need to plug the gap of JoJo with. So, I think a Saint Seiya Musou makes a lot of sense. You could make an argument for like if they wanted to do like a Densetsu Godcloth Seiya or whatever, then yeah, sure, I think that works just as fine. I'm just kind of surprised we haven't had Aiolos at this point. So I think for a Taiwan exclusive Musou that would later come to Japan, yes, I think this makes a lot of sense. Historically important, powerful character, fits the bill, and we haven't had a Saint Seiya one yet, and we haven't had actually much Saint Seiya content as of recent. It was happening quite a lot, at least on the Taiwan server, and then coming over to JP, but then at a certain point it just kind of stopped. So I don't know, something to keep an eye out for, considering we're having a JoJo feature festival this year on JP. So they must be cooking up something for the Taiwan server. But until we find out what that is, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is with Saint Seiya. Moving on, another slightly older series, possibly falls into a similar category as NANJIRO ECHIZEN, because they're from a sports series, but also might be a little bit more risky as a choice for a top tier unit, and that is Roberto Hongo from Captain Tsubasa. Same sort of concept again as NANJIRO ECHIZEN, not actually related to Tsubasa, at least as far as I'm aware, because I haven't read the whole series, but is the mentor and is obviously a prominent figure from the history of the story. He was playing for Brazil, and he was like one of the best players, and so yeah, okay, fits the role, but there hasn't been a lot of Captain Tsubasa content in the game. Quite frankly, there's been very, very little considering how popular the series is, how popular the series was, and just how much content there is to work with. So maybe this one is a bit less likely, just purely down to those factors, not anything necessarily to do with the character, just down to how the devs have handled content from this series, or lack of content from this series. But for the Captain Tsubasa fans out there, and there are quite a lot of them, I think you would probably agree that this is a good candidate to be a Musou, to be a Densetsu, to be something high rarity. But seeing as Captain Tsubasa does not even have a limited yet, I'm not exactly holding my breath, though. That being said, when Fuki released, we did not have a limited from Hoshinengi. Well, we still don't on the JP server, we do on the Taiwan server, but you get the idea. It's possible, it's certainly possible. Moving on to our next pick, Ging Freaks from Hunter. I keep on wanting to say Hunter x Hunter, but it is Hunter x Hunter. But Hunter x Hunter is fine too, I suppose. Regardless, Ging Freaks from Hunter x Hunter. A character that I think makes the most sense from Hunter x Hunter. I think we can all agree on that. Just because maybe some of the picks they used in the past for like limiteds and stuff could have filled the role. And, you know, say for example, like Netero versus Meruem. Like if that was Musou Netero, I think that would make a lot of sense. But they already made him into a limited. So would they do that again? This was the debate I had with Bleach. I haven't included anything from Bleach on this list. And I see a lot of people say like Ichibe, and it's like, okay, I kind of get what you're saying. But at the same time, I just don't know how, like, of all the characters in Bleach, it just doesn't feel like the character that should be the highest, most strongest, most powerful character in the game to represent the series. I get it from the stance and the viewpoint of what the world is, but for me, like, the best candidate was Yamamoto. Obviously, the events of Thousand Year Blood War basically just completely mess everything up, and in terms of like the power levels and whatever, it's a nightmare. So picking one out as like a Musou, and it's like most of them just got bodied. Pretty much everyone except Yuha, you could argue, does not deserve to be the top priority of character in the game because they got absolutely bodied. And then we have two versions of Yuha, and they are event units. So Bleach is tough. Hunter x Hunter, similar sort of situation. You have characters like Netero, who you'd say, oh yeah, should definitely be like Musou. No, is a limited. And we have an event version, but I think the event version's fine. But then you could even make an argument for like the Zoldyck family, the way they show up into the story. But again, no. they're an event unit, and they're like a hero grade unit. And it's a bit of a mess. But Ging is like the last holdout of like a super powerful character from the series that has not been implemented into the game, and is like almost this like mythical figure that Gon is chasing. Obviously, we got to the point in the story where Gon caught up to him, but the point is that you hear about all his exploits as you go along and how strong he is and how good he is as a hunter. So yes, I think he makes a lot of sense. I don't think I would summon for him. I don't think I would care enough. But Hunter x Hunter's so popular, so it should have a Musou. Whether it should be Ging or not, that's up to the Hunter x Hunter fans. I don't know, but I think that would be my pick nonetheless. And then lastly, this one is maybe, I wouldn't say controversial, is that right? It might be controversial, I don't know. As we know, the devs have certain favourites, and I would say a series that has gotten a lot of favouritism over the years has been Kimetsu no Yaiba. And so I have chosen Tanjiro as a Densetsu from Kimetsu no Yaiba. But hear me out. Hear me out. For a start, I think Yoriichi would have made the most sense to be the top tier of unit from the series. He ticks all the boxes. The historical importance, the super powerful character, has a high influence over the story. And, we keep on flashing back to him and his abilities, and Tanjiro, a lot of what he has learned is because of him. And when you add it all up, it should have been Yoriichi, but it wasn't Yoriichi. Yoriichi was instead limited. And so, could that mean that they don't plan to release a Musou for Kimetsu no Yaiba? Absolutely. This is my alternate take. This is my idea for what could work. You could definitely make an argument for like a Dark Heroes Muzan Densetsu. Yeah, that would work. I don't know if the devs would do that, but I think that would work. I argue here that we would have Tanjiro fighting against Muzan as obviously the Densetsu and the equivalent event character. But when he uses his ultimate attack, I would have the other Demon Slayers using their abilities, kind of almost as if it's like the final group attack, all as a single unit. So even though it is Tanjiro, I mean, if you played Dokkan, you will have seen a unit recently that was Goku, and the unit is called Son Goku, but it's like Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo and I think Gohan all using an attack at the same time. And this is a similar sort of thing. It's Tanjiro, but you would have other characters who were fighting in that final battle against Muzan come in and use their special abilities sort of at the same time or consecutively in the special animation. It'll probably be a little bit on the long side, but if you think about it, it only needs to be similarly long. Like we have Yoriichi's ability, which already seemed kind of long. So if you have something similar to that, you could have Tanjiro performing the 12 forms, and as he's doing that, you could have the other Demon Slayers come in and use their abilities, which is kind of how the final battle went. So I don't really see a problem with that. You could, I mean, there's an argument for maybe like, I don't know, like, what about like Muzan in Tanjiro's body? No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I think this is the only way, unless they're going to go back and do Yoriichi again. And I just don't really see how you can do that. I feel like if Demon Slayer gets one, this is how I would do it. And this would be so crazy popular in terms of printing money for them. I think there's a lot of people that are burnt out on this series, but I don't think they would even care about those people. If you decide to leave the game because of this Tanjiro, they don't even care, because they're going to get so many more fans. They're just going to promote this everywhere. They're going to promote it in Jump and on billboards and on trains, and they're going to be like, guys, come play our game. We got Tanjiro. We're the first one to have this Tanjiro. Come and play. Whether they will do that or not, I don't know. But if they like money, they probably should. Now, that's all 10. However, I have a few little scraps here, and these scraps are sort of unrelated to my 10 because I think these probably won't happen. Most likely either won't, or I mean they can't happen. Or there's a bit more something there. My point is, I've got 3 here from series that already have a Musou or a Densetsu. And these characters, like I said, can't even necessarily happen, but there's a chance, I suppose. The point is, I just thought they were worth including. Let's start things off with Naruto and Sasuke as a dual unit, using the Sasuke with the both Sharingan and Rinnegan, and the Sage of the Sixth Path Naruto together in one unit. I think this is like a logical next step. We already have Naruto and Sasuke as a dual unit, as a limited. So to have their final forms as a dual unit, as a Densetsu. Maybe this is something that will come further down the line and it'll be some new grades beyond Densetsu. I don't know. But I think at some point they have to do like the protagonists or whatever the main characters together if they are a set of 2 characters, and if they're just one character then by themselves in like their final form as like the top rarity from that series. Because like, say you release this dual unit as a limited, why? Why would you do that? Because you've already said Sage of the Six Paths Naruto is limited worthy. You've already said Rinnegan and Sharingan Sasuke is limited worthy. Well, we say that, but it's not even out in the game yet. You put those 2 together, surely it needs to be the step above that. And this is how I would execute. I would release them as like a Densetsu together. I think that would print money. And yeah, there is an issue with Naruto where I think they push forward to the end too quickly. And there's still like tons of content that wasn't covered, and it's going to be a bit weird to go back and cover it now. Like if you release, say you release these 2 as a limited, can you really go back and then release like, oh, Naruto that fought Gaara after the tuning exams as a limited, and it's going to be stronger than these guys because it came out after them? A bit weird. Admittedly, they'll probably have to do something along those lines, but at least if this was the top tier of unit in the game, you can say, well, at least the one strongest unit in Naruto, or I guess 2 because it would be next to Hashirama, but at least the 2 of them stand out the way they should. Whether people agree with me on that or not, I don't know, but that's why I've done this as sort of like a little side thing. It's not the actual part of my top 10. Next up, Gear 5 Luffy. I've said before, and I'll say it again. If they want money, they need to be the first game to release this. Before OPTC, before like Bounty Rush or whatever. I don't even know what One Piece games are left out. Before like World Seeker. I don't even know if World Seeker... No, it's not World Seeker, it's Odyssey. Before Odyssey, we need to be the first game to release this. We were like the first game to do Oden, I believe. But then we were slacking on Yamato, and now we're seeing stuff from later in Wano come out. And we've seen, I believe for New Year, there's going to be the version 2. I call it version 2. I don't know how many Yamatos there is on OPTC, but like the beast mode Yamato is going to be out on OPTC. And so Jumputi's late to that one as well. Don't be late to this one. I don't know if there's some sort of restrictions on what they can release, but I assume not, simply because we got Oden first. Unless something changed since then, which I suppose is possible. But realistically, if we are the first game to have Gear 5th Luffy, money will be made. And it needs to be the top rarity of character, 100%. I know a lot of people say, oh, it should be limited. It's like, yes, I get it, because they just keep releasing the new forms of Luffy as limited. But for me, like Red Rock Luffy and Gear 5 Luffy both being limited makes no sense. You have to push this one up. It needs to be one step above. And I don't think it's that likely, because we already have a Musou from One Piece, and I think with the release schedule of Musou and Densetsu on the game, by the time we are due another Musou or Densetsu, unless this happens to be the one for the 5th Annie, which I guess is possible, but I don't really know. Most likely this will be coming out on Jumputi after it's happened on other games, unless they make him a limited. So hopefully the devs see fit to make him like a Musou or Densetsu. I personally wouldn't summon on it, but it would be good for the game. It would make a lot of money for the game. So makes sense. Although if you read the interview with Fuji P, you know Fuji P is making good money. He's wearing only the finest hype beast clothing that is very expensive, so he's doing fine. But I was talking more from the perspective of, if the game's doing well, hopefully they can support the fans better, the players better, and they can give more rewards, and then it's better for everybody. How that will work in practice moving forward remains to be seen, but I think we would all agree that this would go hard. Now, the final one definitely isn't going to happen, and that is Gogeta from Dragon Ball. Now, again, I've put this as an aside and not part of the main list, because realistically, Gogeta doesn't appear in the manga, so this can't happen. And I'm not saying it should happen. Even this artwork is not even though it is in the manga style, this is actually fan artwork made by Fenyon, who you can find on Twitter. This is a situation where I just want this character so bad that I'm kind of talking beyond my own sense. I know better than to expect something like this, and I don't expect it. But I would love to see Gogeta. I think having Gogeta as the Densetsu from Dragon Ball and having Vegito as the Musou and having them together would be amazing. It would be absolutely incredible. I can already imagine what his sprites look like. He has that that rainbow swirly space ball thing, and it just turns everything into stardust. Having that in Jumputi would be insane. And I know there is obviously an argument for stuff from like Dragon Ball Super maybe at some point being considered for Jumputi, and if it does, then obviously that can go hard in its own way. You can have, you know, UI Goku or whatever, or even Gogeta at that point might be able to appear. Did Gogeta appear in the manga? Not yet, I don't think. But in the animated version of Dragon Ball Super, we did get the Super Saiyan Blue version of Gogeta. So maybe it's not impossible. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen, but I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see Gogeta be added to the game. And we're going to end it there for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm sure there's some characters that I missed, and if there are any you can think of, Musou, Densetsu, or some other new super powerful rarity that they may add to the game in the future, if there are any characters that fall into that bracket that you would like to see added to the game in the future, let me know in the comments. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.